Welcome back to the final hour of the Don Carpenter Show on News Talk 1270 KIML.
News Talk 1270 KIML. Don Carpenter Show. Welcome back to the program. It's 9:08, and we're going to go right to the phones. On the line, we have Bob Owens, the editor of BearingArms.com. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here. How are you doing this morning?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. Before we get started, I just want to first I want to thank you and congratulate you for being at least a week ahead of the curve on this ammo ban. I know we talked about it. I guess it was 2 weeks ago on Monday. And it was a week and a half before most of the other mainstream, even conservative media picked up on it. So, I mean, good for you for being on top of things.
Well, thank you. I try to stay on top of things as best I can. And this one, if you knew what you were looking for, it was pretty easy to see that this was going to be a huge story. Unfortunately, for most of the media, they kind of needed spoon-fed to them because they didn't understand the implications of the story, which was basically the ATF is unlawfully going after the most common ammunition for the most common rifles sold in the United States today.
Well, and again, we're talking about the green tip M855 223 ammo for AR-15s. There's been a bit of a twist in the story, and I shared Katie Pavlich's version with the listeners a little bit ago. This is kind of a dirty trick by the ATF, isn't it?
It certainly is. You know, Katie is a colleague of mine. We both work for Town Hall Media, is our parent company, and yeah, she caught him pretty much red-handed. The ATF said that, we just recently came up with this decision in February. And Katie documented the fact that they had written the ammunition out of the regulations in 2014. So it's kind of hard for them to stick with that. And they have since come out and said, that was just a editorial mistake. And nobody with any sense is going to buy that. The Office of Budget Management reviews this documentation heavily along with the ATF. This was not done as an accident. This was a corrupt administration getting caught with their hands in the cookie jar.
Well, and the way the regulations are written, there was a little subsection that had the original exception for the green tip ammo. That section was just deleted. I mean, it's not like someone just accidentally deleted an entire section of federal regulations.
You're right. They went in and specifically deleted references to M855 ammunition and to a armor-piercing rounds in 30-06, which also has an exemption for it. So whoever did this, Obama White House, went in there and pulled the specific ammo that they later conveniently decided that, we want to ban this. It strains credibility to a breaking point, past a breaking point, when they say, we just came up with this idea, and yet this stuff had already been removed from regulations that they had vetted and published in 2014.
Now, of course, the end result of this is that technically the ban is already in place. Then, right?
Well, that was what they were trying to pull. Now that Katie has caught them red-handed, they turned around and published what is basically the equivalent of a retraction. And they said, oops, this was a publishing error. We really, really didn't mean to do this. And so they turned around and they said that, we didn't really ban this stuff. This was an error and will have no legal impact.
Okay, so
So
right, so for now at least it's for now at least I guess it's still legal then. This seems like even if they manage to not get away with this, and they might not get away with it now because they got caught with this. It does seem like it has the effect of destabilizing the ammunition market anyway. No matter what happens for the next year or two, the entire market's going to be destabilized, and they got to love that.
well, it was their explicit intent. I mean, they were going in and trying to knock out the M855, which is just ball ammunition. They're trying to reclassify something that is 80% lead as armor piercing. As a legal matter, it meets none, zero, zilch of the criteria to be legally classified as armor piercing. They literally do not have a leg to stand on as a legal matter. They're doing an end run around Congress. This is a major abuse of power from the Obama administration. And anybody who thinks that this did not come from the White House needs to remove their heads from their posterior. No agency is going to take on something of this magnitude without getting direct orders from the White House. Again, we're talking about going after the most common and inexpensive form of ammunition for the best-selling rifle in the United States. This was not a fluke. This was a direct assault on the Second Amendment by a rogue presidency.
Well, now has I haven't checked the news today, but has the president claimed that he only heard about this from the news yet? That seems to be the next reaction. I only heard about it on the news.
Well, that has been his reaction to pretty much every major news story. Is I just heard about it. Perhaps if King Putt spent less time on the golf course, more time in the Oval Office, he'd have a better idea of what was going on in his government.
Of course, in reality, I have a feeling that this whole thing is being micromanaged from the top down. So, this is just like you mentioned, just another example of the abuse of power. Now, let's actually talk about. You mentioned some of the media coverage of this, and as usual, they're getting it completely wrong again. And you schooled a New York Times editorial about this one yesterday, and as usual, they get it completely wrong, don't they?
They do, and it's by intent. They have no interest whatsoever in telling the actual story. What their interest is, and has been since the 1930s, is supporting communism. That is what the New York Times has always done. And so, they wrote an editorial yesterday called "Protect the Police from Armor-Piercing Bullets," and so I just went through and did what's called a fisking, and I went through line by line and pointed out each and every error that they made. And they tried to claim that this lead core bullet has a steel core. They tried to claim it was armor piercing, even though the fact, any rifle bullet will pierce armor designed to stop pistols. Pistol bullets.
Right.
Police wear level 2 armor primarily, and that is it's because they typically run into handguns are their greatest threats. It's because they're small and concealable weapons, and the level 2 will stop most handgun rounds, and is more comfortable than the heavier level 3A armor.
Right. I mean,
which is the next grade up.
For a police officer to go through the day wearing plate armor, I mean that's basically what level 3 would be, plate armor, right?
Right. Well, there's a level 3A that is a soft armor, but it is really heavy stuff. And then there's a level 3, which is, you are correct, is the heavy plate armor.
Okay.
And that stuff is either going to be either very expensive, or if it's inexpensive than it's made out of armor-grade steel, and it weighs 16 pounds a set. So, yeah, that's not something an officer can do.
Right, and again, I mean, when there are no documented instances of police officers being attacked by AR-15 pistols, actually, which is what the ATF is claiming that this is a problem, is people using these rifle rounds in handguns and pistols. There are no documented instances of that, so there would be no need for police to wear that heavy armor.
That is correct. And what's interesting about it is if police were wearing level 3 armor, you could shoot them pretty much, and of course I'm not advocating this, let's be very clear on it. There have been tests done on level 3 armor with the M855 round. And a gentleman who runs a YouTube channel called Demolition Ranch took a level 3 plate in M855 rounds and shot multiple magazines of this bullet into the armor. And he got 2 full magazines, 60 rounds, into a plate with nothing going through. And in the final magazine he shot, another 30 rounds, 2 rounds penetrated. So somewhere between 60 and 90 rounds fired, 2 of them got through. I don't see anybody sitting around waiting to get shot 90 times. I'm pretty sure that anybody gets shot once or twice is going to move.
Well, yeah. I guess the old saying is if your backup plan is to take multiple shots from a rifle, you probably should have a better primary plan.
Exactly.
And again, this is a situation that just never comes up in real life.
No, it doesn't. And in those instances where we do have the threat of rifle rounds, known rifle rounds, that's when you're sending in your ERT and SWAT units anyway with that heavy armor.
Right. So they're equipped. They're equipped for it.
Exactly. When we're talking about an AR-15 pistol, the media, such as the New York Times and the ATF, are trying to create this picture, this mental image of an actual pistol. An AR-15 pistol, and imagine air quotes around this, weighs 5 pounds and is 2 feet square. It's 2 feet long and it's got a 30-round magazine. So you're talking about something that is physically impossible to hide or carry. Johnny Gangbanger's not pulling this out of his saggy pants.
Well, and not to mention Johnny Gangbanger is not going to be paying the money for the upper and the lower and the arm brace and everything else. So Johnny Gangbanger just go out and get himself a high point and do what he needs to do.
Well, exactly. I mean, you're not going to sit here and either build or buy a $1,300 gun that you're just going to throw away. Like, these criminals want a gun that is cheap. They want a gun that is powerful and it is concealable. They want something that they can use to commit a crime and then throw away so that they can't be linked to it.
Right.
They're not going to go out and invest $1,000 to $1,500 to $2,000 on a high-end, extremely loud, very large and heavy firearm that they're just going to throw away. It doesn't make any economic sense. It doesn't make any tactical sense. This is a non-threat to police. And the entire goal of this, it's the pistols are an excuse. The ATF is going after AR-15s by going after their ammo supply. That's what this boils down to.
Right, and the reason they're going after AR-15s, like you mentioned, it's the most common rifle. I mean, the AR-15 has become the symbol of the Second Amendment movement. I mean, it really has. It
has, and you've got returning veterans who have military experience going back to the Vietnam era. So we're talking, our grandparents now, who have picked up an appreciation for this firearm. You've got current veterans who come home, they're familiar with the platform, and then they're adopting it in all sorts of different configurations and calibers for hunting every animal up to and including Bear, depending on your caliber conversions. They're lightweight, they're low recoiling. They are the best-selling rifle among women because they can be shortened and adapted, and they have low recoil and can be used in various ways. And yeah, the AR-15 is America's gun. There's no doubt about that. And so you have a president who reviles the Second Amendment with a passion, who cannot stand the thought of citizens being able to defend themselves against a rogue government. And so since he failed in his bid to try to ban AR-15s after Sandy Hook, he's going the next best thing, or going with the next best thing he thinks he can do, and he's going after magazines, and he's going after ammunition. And since the magazine ban didn't go through either on the federal level, he has resorted to these criminal actions to attempt to affect the ammunition supply. And if he manages to hit the 855, folks, don't think he's going to stop there. He's calling this a armor-piercing bullet, and it's not. As I said, it's 80% lead. If he goes after this, he's going to go after your M193, which is your standard 55-grain ball round. And once he goes after that, it's Katie bar the door. There's nothing to stop them from going after every centerfire rifle made on the planet.
Well, and I mean they've already done a little bit of that by banning some of the Chinese surplus ammo for 7.62. So I mean this is obviously just incremental little bits that keep biting away.
And what the irony, and you bring up the I believe it was the M43 round from China that they banned. The irony of going after that round and the M855 is both of those are very stable rounds, and so if you had to be shot with any bullet in those two calibers, these are the bullets you want to be hit with because they tend to bore straight through and keep right on going without any yawing, any fragmenting, any deformation. They make these nice ice pick type wounds that are very survivable. And so what happened was when these rounds, or in the case of the 43 round, was outlawed, and what they're trying to do with the 855 is the remaining ammo that's on the street is actually more dangerous to human beings. So it's completely absurd and upside down, and their stated goals of what they're trying to do and what they're actually trying to do are completely different. By removing 855 from the market, you are increasing risk to officers, not reducing it.
Well, and again, I guess the chasm between reality and what's claimed, it just keeps getting wider and wider. And of course, you're right. This pistol excuse that they're using for this the 855 ammo could be used for any caliber because you can pretty much get a handgun that fires any rifle caliber at this point.
Right. And, the amusing thing, from my perspective, is that what they're calling pistols these days, these short AR-15s, these short AK-based rifles, and the CZ Scorpion and other really interesting stuff, is what they're trying to do with these so-called pistols is they're trying to get around an archaic 80-year-old law anyway.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
National Firearms Act.
Right, and the reason they call them pistols is because otherwise they would be short-barreled rifles if they had a full stock.
Exactly, and then there would be a $200 transfer tax and a 9-month wait for them. So what do? They just chop the stock off of them.
Go ahead. And registration. Can't forget that because
exactly.
that's what the tax stamp boils down to. It's registration.
Absolutely, and we are one of the few, and maybe the only country, I'd have to research it, who even recognizes that category of weapon. It was arbitrarily made up in the 1930s to handle a gangster problem during Prohibition. And, frankly, most of the National Firearms Act should be repealed at this point. I think most people would still prefer there being tax stamps and registration for machine guns. But short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, and suppressors are not a problem. They're used by sportsmen. They're used by people in home defense. And, it's utterly absurd that you have to pay $200 for a tax stamp just because you want to put a stock on a short-barreled rifle.
Well, and of course, the original idea for the tax stamp, I mean, it's always been $200. Of course, in the 1930s, $200 was a lot of money. So the idea was to try to price it out of price it out of the market for these gangsters, and now it's just $200 is not really that much money. So it just shows how archaic that law really is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I know I asked you this last time, and we talked a little bit about this comment period. The comment period ends March 16th. Is that even worth bothering with, making comments to the ATF?
In my opinion, it's not. It seems rather clear from the case investigation that ATF made their mind up long ago, well before we even heard about that this was coming down the pipe. This was a decision made by ATF in 2014. If you want to make a difference, get in contact with your representatives in the House of Representatives, get in contact with your senators. Have them rewrite the Law Enforcement Officers Protection Act of 1986 so that it specifically exempts rifle ammunition from that classification as armor-piercing ammunition. Because that's what they're doing, is they're taking rifle ammunition, trying to reclassify it as pistol ammunition for the purposes of outlawing the cartridge. If Congress will go through, it really only needs to be a maybe one-line amendment, and then drop that onto each and every bill going to the president's desk. At some point, he's going to be forced to sign it, and that will not only defang the ATF now, it will keep them from ever being able to pull this stunt ever again.
Well, and have you heard of any members of Congress I've seen a few members of Congress speak out about this, but has there been any movement towards actually doing something about it?
Rep. Rooney out of Florida has put forth a bill to protect, basically to protect the M855 ammo. At this point, it is a framework. We don't have specific language on it. There is also a push for more dramatic language that's going to be coming from some of the gun rights groups working with the House of Representatives, working with the Senate to hit this even harder and with more force to really take care of ATF as far as this issue goes for once and for all. And there is a perennial bill that has been reintroduced as a result of this, just to completely disband the ATF and hand over their responsibilities to other federal agencies. And there's a fairly solid argument to do just that.
Well, you certainly wouldn't get any opposition from me on that one.
Yeah, they have proven themselves to be a rogue agency time and again, and we don't need them.
Well, and that's saying a lot compared to some of these other agencies that, I mean, they might be, out of all of the rogue agencies, they might be the I'll just make up a word, roguiest.
They're certainly up there. I mean, you've got the IRS targeting people politically, political groups, which may have, thrown the 2008 election to Obama. You've got the EPA going through and attacking people. You've got the FBI attacking people. So, yeah, the entire Department of Justice is going after various people for social justice crimes. So, we're looking at an entire executive branch, which is entirely corrupted at this point, and we really need to look at the judiciary and the legislative branches to come through and rein these guys in, and they're not doing it as of yet.
Well, your lips to God's ears, my friend. Okay, we're almost out of time here. Just on a personal note, now you mentioned you're and this is completely from left field. You mentioned you're a colleague with Katie Pavlich. Have you ever run into her in person?
Many times.
Okay.
We last time was at CPAC, Conservative Political Action Conference, a couple of weeks ago, and we went hunting together back in December.
Okay, well, and this is just the running joke on my show, but in person, is her hair that perfect all the time, no matter what? I mean, she'll be out shooting, and her hair's perfect. As a follically challenged guy, I really admire that about Katie Pavlich.
Even in a tree stand.
Yeah, I don't know how she does it, but seriously though, she does great work.
She does. She is a wonderful, talented journalist.
Okay, well, we're almost out of time. Let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
All right. I'm most easily found on the internet at bearingarms.com. And if you go out on Facebook, I also am the administrator for the site Second Amendment Supporters. And that's the number 2 ND Amendment Supporters on Facebook. Okay,
and just a personal note for bearingarms.com. That's the place to find all of this news before everybody else has it. It really is. Bob, you're on top of things, and I want to thank you so much.
Thank you, Don.
Hey, thanks, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Absolutely.
And there we go. It's Bob Owens from bearingarms.com. Again, check them out. They were a week and a half ahead of everybody else. And when it comes to things like this, that really is important to have that lead time. We'll be right back. News Talk 1270 KIML.
Basin Radio News, Fox News, Cowboy State News.
More news than you can shake a stick at.
Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.
It was Championship Saturday in Casper. I'm Reese Monaco. This is the Cowboys.